Welcome to episode 61 of Liquid Velvet Literature here on Prose Radio. Our intro music courtesy David Gilmour, track Dark and Velvet Nights from the upcoming album Luck and Strange. And we're very lucky today to have this strange and beautiful story requested from our friend Todd Beller, entitled Breadcrumbs of Consciousness. In the bustling kitchen of Le Petit Gourmet, a Michelin-starred restaurant nestled in the heart of Paris, a peculiar awakening occurred. Amidst the cacophony of sizzling pans and barked orders, a tiny cube of toasted bread stirred to life. This was no ordinary crouton. It was Pierre, and he had just become conscious. Pierre's first thought was a simple one. I think, therefore I am a crouton? The absurdity of his situation wasn't lost on him. Here he was, a morsel of bread no larger than a fingernail, suddenly grappling with the complexities of self-awareness. He took stock of his surroundings. He lay in a stainless steel bowl alongside hundreds of his brethren, each an identical golden brown cube. But Pierre knew he was different. While all the others remained blissfully unaware, he alone bore the burden of consciousness. How did this happen? Pierre wondered. Was it the precise temperature of the oven that toasted me to perfection, a quirk in the wheat from which I was baked? Or perhaps the alignment of the stars at the moment I was cut from the loaf? He had no answers, only an insatiable curiosity about his newfound existence. His philosophical musings were abruptly interrupted by a massive hand plunging into the bowl. Pierre watched in horror as dozens of his fellow croutons were scooped up and unceremoniously sprinkled onto a salad. Their fate, he realized with a shudder, would soon be his as well. No, Pierre thought, determination surging through his crisp exterior. I refuse to be mere garnish in some human's meal. I have thoughts, dreams, a budding existential crisis. I must escape. With all the strength his tiny form could muster, Pierre wriggled and rolled, maneuvering himself to the edge of the bowl. He teetered on the brink, the kitchen floor a dizzying drop below. It was a leap of faith, but what choice did he have? To remain was certain doom. Pierre closed his eyes, or rather, he would have if he had any, and jumped. He bounced once, twice on the hard tile floor, miraculously remaining intact. But his relief was short-lived. A booming voice echoed through the kitchen. Who left this mess? There's a crouton on the floor. A colossal shoe appeared in Pierre's field of vision, descending rapidly. In that moment, Pierre knew true fear. He rolled with all his might, narrowly avoiding being crushed into breadcrumbs. He tumbled across the floor, dodging feet and brooms, until he found himself in the relative safety beneath a massive refrigerator. Panting, figuratively of course, Pierre peered out at the forest of legs and wheels that now constituted his world. He had escaped, yes, but to what end? He was alone, lost, and completely out of his element. The existential dread that had been bubbling beneath the surface now threatened to overwhelm him. Get a hold on yourself, Pierre, he admonished himself. You're the only sentient crouton in existence. Surely that counts for something. As he huddled in the shadows, trying to make sense of his situation, Pierre was unaware that his adventure was only just beginning. Little did he know that in the coming hours, he would forge unlikely alliances, face unimaginable dangers, and ultimately confront the very meaning of his existence. For now, though, Pierre allowed himself a moment to rest and reflect. He may have been small, but his thoughts were vast and complex. He was determined to find his place in this strange, oversized world, no matter the cost. After all, Pierre mused, a glimmer of humor cutting through his anxiety. I am a crouton. I was made to rise to the occasion. As Pierre nestled in his hiding spot beneath the refrigerator, the kitchen's frantic pace continued unabated above him. The cacophony of clanking pots, sizzling pans, and shouted orders created a symphony of culinary chaos. For Pierre, it was a glimpse into a world he'd never truly noticed before, a world where his kind were but small players in a grand gastronomic drama. Hours passed, and the kitchen's rhythm slowly changed. The dinner rush ebbed, and the thunderous footsteps became less frequent. As the night deepened, Pierre's courage grew. He cautiously ventured out from his refuge, his senses on high alert for any sign of danger. "Hello," he called out softly, feeling somewhat foolish. "Is anyone out there?" To his astonishment, a voice answered back. Well, what do we have here? A talking breadcrumb." Pierre spun around, as much as a cube can spin, to find himself face to face with a gnarled old carrot stub, half hidden behind a fallen spatula. "I am not a breadcrumb," Pierre replied indignantly. "I am a crouton. And who might you be?" The carrot chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "My name is Cornelius, young fellow. Been in this kitchen longer than most of the chefs. Seen it all, I have." Pierre's initial irritation gave way to curiosity. "You mean there are others like me? Other fools that can think and talk?" Cornelius's expression grew somber. "Aye, there are a few of us. Not many, mind you. Most food items don't last long enough to gain awareness. But those of us who slip through the cracks, who avoid the knife and the heat long enough, sometimes we wake up." This revelation both thrilled and terrified Pierre. On one hand, he wasn't alone in his sentience. On the other, the implication that awareness came only to those who avoided their intended fate was deeply unsettling. "But why?" Pierre asked. "Why do we become conscious? What's the point if we are just meant to be eaten?" Cornelius sighed, a wheezy sound that reminded Pierre of air escaping a paper bag. "That, my crusty friend, is the question we all grapple with. Come, let me introduce you to the others. Perhaps together we can find some answers." With that, Cornelius led Pierre on a perilous journey across the kitchen floor. They dodged forgotten utensils, navigated around sticky spills, and narrowly avoided the patrolling feet of the night cleaning crew. Finally, they arrived at a small hole in the baseboard, hidden behind a trash bin. "Welcome," Cornelius announced, "to the larder of lost morsels." Pierre gasped, metaphorically, as he entered. The space behind the wall was larger than he'd imagined, illuminated by the soft glow of a forgotten nightlight. And it was populated by the strangest assortment of characters Pierre had ever seen. There was Brie, a moldy chunk of cheese with a philosophical bent; Sage, a withered herb leaf who spoke in riddles; Chip, a potato crisp with delusions of grandeur; and Olive, a wrinkled black olive with a cynical worldview. Each of them had gained consciousness after being overlooked or discarded, and each struggled with the existential implications of their awareness. "My friends, Cornelius addressed the group. "I'd like you to meet Pierre. He's newly awakened and has much to learn about our world." The assembled food items regarded Pierre with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. It was Olive who spoke first, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, goody, another mouth to not feed. Tell me, Crouton, how does it feel to know your entire existence was meant to be an afterthought in someone's salad?" Pierre bristled at her tone, but found he had no ready answer. It was a question he'd been avoiding since his awakening. What was the purpose of a sentient crouton? What did it mean to be created solely for consumption, only to gain the ability to contemplate that very fate? Brie interjected, his voice smooth and cultured, despite the spots of mold dotting his rind. Now, Olive, let's not overwhelm our new friend. Pierre, consciousness is both a gift and a curse. We have the capacity to appreciate the beauty of existence, but also the burden of knowing its transient nature. Indeed, added Sage, her voice a whisper, to crunch or not to crunch? That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous hunger. Oh, put a cork in it, Sage, Chip interrupted. Not everything's gotta be a bleeding metaphor. Listen, you guy, here's the deal. We're food. Sooner or later, we're gonna get eaten. But while we're here, we might as well make the most of it, right? Pierre's head was spinning. In the span of a few hours, he'd gone from a simple crouton to a philosopher grappling with the nature of existence. It was overwhelming, to say the least. But surely, Pierre ventured, there must be more to our existence than waiting to be eaten. We have minds, thoughts, feelings. Doesn't that count for something? A heavy silence fell over the gathering. It was clear that Pierre had given voice to the question that haunted them all. What was the point of their newfound sentience if their ultimate fate remained unchanged? As the night wore on, Pierre listened to his new companions debate the purpose of their existence. Brie argued for the pursuit of knowledge, Sage for spiritual enlightenment, Chip for hedonistic pleasure, and Olive for cynical acceptance. Cornelius mostly listened, occasionally offering a bit of hard-earned wisdom. Pierre absorbed it all, his mind awhirl with new ideas and possibilities. But as the first light of dawn began to seep into the kitchen, he found himself no closer to understanding his place in this strange new world. As the others retreated deeper into their hiding place to avoid the arriving morning staff, Pierre lingered at the entrance. He gazed out at the kitchen, now stirring to life, and felt a curious mix of fear and excitement. "What will you do now, young Pierre?" Cornelius asked softly. Pierre considered for a moment before responding. "I'm not sure, but I know I can't hide away forever. There's a whole world out there, Cornelius, a world I never knew existed until today. I think I need to explore it." Cornelius nodded sagely. "A brave choice, my friend. But remember, with great awareness comes great responsibility. Whatever you decide, know that you always have a home here in the larder of lost morsels." With a final nod of gratitude, Pierre stepped out into the kitchen, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. He was no longer just a crouton. He was a crouton on a mission to understand the true meaning of his existence. Little did Pierre know that his philosophical journey was about to collide head-on with the practical realities of life in a busy restaurant kitchen. His quest for meaning would be tested in ways he could never have imagined, forcing him to confront not only the nature of his existence, but the very real possibility of its sudden end. As Pierre ventured out into the awakening kitchen, the air thrummed with a nervous energy. Chefs and sous-chefs bustled about, their crisp white uniforms a stark contrast to the colorful array of ingredients they wielded. Pierre found himself both terrified and exhilarated by the frenetic pace. Dodging between table legs and chair wheels, Pierre made his way toward the center of the kitchen. His goal was simple yet daunting: to observe, to learn, and perhaps to find some greater purpose for his newly conscious existence. It wasn't long before Pierre encountered his first major obstacle, quite literally. A dollop of hollandaise sauce had dripped onto the floor, forming a slick yellow puddle directly in his path. As he approached, the sauce began to quiver. "Well, bonjour there, little cube," Hollandaise said, its voice smooth and rich. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Hollandaise." Pierre was taken aback. Another sentient food item, and so soon? "I'm Pierre," he replied cautiously. "You're alive." Holland chuckled, causing ripples to dance across his surface. "Alive, mon ami, I'm positively vivacious. But I'm afraid my joie de vivre is rather short-lived. You see, I've fallen from grace, quite literally. It's only a matter of time before I'm wiped away." Pierre felt a pang of sympathy for Holland. "That's terrible. Isn't there something you can do?" "C'est la vie," Holland sighed dramatically. "We sauces lead passionate but brief lives. We bring flavor and zest to the world, and then we vanish. But tell me, my cubicle friend, what's a little crouton like you doing out here in this grand kitchen?" As Pierre began to explain his existential quest, a shadow fell over them. They looked up to see a towering chef, glaring down at the spilled sauce. "Merde! Who left this mess?" the chef bellowed. He reached for a nearby towel. "Adieu, mon ami," Holland said quickly. "Remember, life is short. Add flavor where you can." With a quick swipe, Holland was gone, leaving Pierre alone and shaken. The brief encounter had driven home the precariousness of his situation. In this kitchen, death could come swiftly and without warning. Determined to be more careful, Pierre continued his exploration. He passed by simmering pots that belched aromatic steam, and razor-sharp knives that glinted menacingly. Each step was a reminder of his own fragility. As he rounded the corner of a massive stove, Pierre came face to face with an unexpected sight. To continue this exciting adventure with Pierre, click on the link below to the profile of our friend Todd Beller. And if you haven't already, be sure to click the subscribe button below to receive notifications for future episodes from Close Radio. If you like to read, to write, to be inspired, come join us at theprose.com. We look forward to reading your words, inventive ideas, and stories soon. Thank you for listening, and take good care.